The 2010s are highly regarded as some of the best years when it comes to music, and some of the best albums ever made have come out of that decade. Me personally, I think it is the best music decade for almost all genres. Today I'll be giving y'all my favorite album from each year of the 2010s and why they deserve to be on this list. Each album will be broken down into 3 segments to further explain why I think they are the best albums of those years. Number 1, I'm just going to give you some background and some facts and some stories about the album. Number 2, I'm going to tell you why I personally enjoy them. And number 3, I'm going to give you my personal rating of that album, scoring from 1 to 10. Without further ado, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button, and let's hop straight into it. In my opinion, I think 2010 was a little weak in the music category. There were definitely some good albums by Adele, Drake, Kid Rock, Sam Smith, I'm pretty sure. But me personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the 2010 year. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was released in 2010 by Kanye West, and me personally, I just love this album. It has a big theme of his personal self and how he struggles with all this fame, and he's kind of let his ego get the best of him. For example, in 2009, I think we all know what happened with Taylor Swift at the VMAs. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, that was pretty bad. The song Runaway is about how he is telling somebody to run away from him because he is finally realized that he's the problem. And in many other songs on the album, he dives pretty deep into his personal flaws and all the complexities of being a celebrity and stuff like that. This album explores themes of like darkness and beauty and identity, hence the name My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's just kind of describing his life as a celebrity now. And I think it is a work of art. Just throughout this whole album, it's on one theme of his ego and his identity, and how it can be like beautiful, but it's also really dark and twisted. I personally think this is the best album of 2010. I think it is just so groundbreaking. Some background of this album was actually recorded in Hawaii, and in a lot of these songs, there's so many features on this album, by the way, by absolutely huge music artists and really big producers such as Mike Dean and Kanye himself. This album has features such as Nicki Minaj, Rick Ross, Rihanna, and it's just so much more like that. I truly do believe it is such a great like group project with other A-list celebrities and musicians that are kind of on his level that also kind of relate to this complex lifestyle of a celebrity. I think it's great that he featured all those people like that. The album is just a beautiful blend of good production and great lyrics and really good chorus and instrumentals like that kind of dive into music genres like R&B, hip hop, and rock, that I think just those genres together is just such a masterpiece of like, they blend so well together in my opinion. I just think it's great, and you can't get much better than this album. My personal rating of this album, I would give it an 8 out of 10. There are some flaws. There's a couple songs on here that are a little choppy and confusing, and just some of the beats are a little just hard to listen to and enjoy it, in my opinion. But overall, this album's just so good, and it blends together so well just to make a great album through and through. Let's move on to 2011. Smoking, rolling, I adjust the tweakers up. Break it down so I could beat it up. A$AP Rocky's first album in 2011, Live Love A$AP, was such a great start to his career, which is still going on to this day. And he's regarded as one of the best rappers of this generation. And I think that's not too far off. Like I said, this is his first album, and it kind of explores his new production style that not a ton of people are used to from a New York rapper like A$AP Rocky. When it comes to A$AP Rocky, I just love listening to his music. He has some of the most enjoyable music to listen to. He always teams up with these producers that just make beats that almost just, they pull you into his music. And it's just so enjoyable to listen to, especially on this album. And throughout the years, he's definitely improved this same sort of production style, and his flow on all of these songs are just, you can't get much better than it. If I were to give this album a rating, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. It's not Rocky's best work in my opinion, but it's not his worst. I just gotta nitpick a little bit. There are a lot of songs on here that kind of sound the same. A lot of these songs start off with sort of a similar, like, it's like out of sync and it's like far away. I think it gets a little repetitive, just the beginning of every song. Not every song, but the beginning of a lot of songs kind of sound the same. But and there are some of Rocky's lyrics just don't hit very hard on some of these songs. It kind of sounds like he's yapping to some degree in a couple of these songs. But other than that, I really love coming back to this album and listening to it. It's just such a good vibe. Let's move on to 2012. 2012, Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. One of the best albums of the 2010s. And it's just such a beautiful album. Do I even need to explain myself here? Of course, this is the best album of 2012. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, and it is one of the most critically acclaimed albums of all time as well. This album is just such a beautiful blend of great production, amazing rapping, and just incredible storytelling. Obviously, this is like a common theme of Compton itself, and there are a lot of hidden messages and voice recordings and stories of Kendrick Lamar's past. He features a lot of people from Compton, such as Dr. Dre, and most of the producers he has working on these songs are also people Kendrick knew from his childhood. There's nothing much more I could say. I would give this album a 9 out of 10. There's a couple of songs that are a little lackluster and kind of choppy and thrown together in a way that doesn't work super well when it's compared to some of the other songs on this album. But overall, it's just such a good album and easily the best album of 2012. Let's go ahead and move on to 2013. This album is also pretty similar to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It is J. Cole kind of realizing he is a sinner and he was born a sinner, but he will die better. And there's a lot of complications and complexities when it comes to being a celebrity. And Born Sinner, that time in 2013 is when J. Cole, it's right after his first album. So he's really gotten a lot of fame since making this album. And his whole lifestyle has really changed since making that album. I already know I'm going to get a lot of hate from this one. A lot of people don't think this is even J. Cole's best album. As you saw in my other video, I think this album is a 10 out of 10. And if you want to hear like a full review of it, please go check out my video. It's 3 rap albums I would give a 10 out of 10. That's the title of it. But this album, just the production is by J. Cole. And like I said in my other video, I absolutely love when the main artist is also the main producer of his own music. I feel like it really just allows the artist to express himself even more. And it's his own taste. So everything is on par with each other. So his rapping just flows straight into all the beats he makes. And the features on this album are amazing. I really just cannot stop defending this album. I will defend this to the day I die. I will defend J. Cole till the day I die. But I don't know, man. I just think this album is so great. If you didn't hear me the first time, I do give this album a 10 out of 10. Please, if you don't trust me, go listen to it for yourself. Let's move on to 2014.
Niggas was wearing buddies, talking about like William
My favorite album of 2014 is Piñata by Freddie Gibbs. This album has so many great features from more members of Criselta and a lot of features from people like Danny Brown, who you've seen Freddie Gibbs work with in the past. And the songs are also produced by Madlib, which I'm sure you're familiar with his work with Mad Villainy and many others such as Madlib's own albums. Freddie Gibbs and Madlib have a really strong connection with each other, and they've worked so much in the past. And this album is on a level with Mad Villainy when it comes to those two artists, the main artist and the producer, connecting with each other. It's just such a great bond, those two, because they're so similar in their style and their sound and their taste. It's just that dynamic duo of Madlib and Freddie Gibbs, once again showing off their true talent. Freddie Gibbs, I think this is his best work when it comes to rapping. And Madlib, he does not disappoint with the samples on this album and his own production as well. I think the samples are just, I can't stress that enough about this album. They are mind-blowing. Absolutely amazing. If I were to give this album a rating, I would give it, I'd say, I'm teetering between the line on 7 or 8. I'd give it an 8. This is a relatively long album. And some of them, there are a couple skips on the album, I'm gonna be honest. Nothing is really insanely mind-blowing about this album. I just think it's such a consistent album, other than the fact of 3 or 4 songs being like but I think 8 is perfect for this album, and that is why I think that's the album of the year. Let's move on to 2015. If you're surprised, you obviously haven't heard this album before, because this is the greatest album of all time. And there are countless reasons why I think that. As you watched in my other video, I did put this as a 10 out of 10 album, and that is also what I'm giving it here. I did not change my mind. To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar it delves deep into every problem he's faced as a person. He's speaking for the entire black community on false stereotypes, unfair judgments upon them. And this album is just so culturally important, and it's also an absolute banger. This is one of the more enjoyable albums I've listened to. This album has a very rap, hip hop, jazz, and funk theme to it, with also some rock in there. And man, just great vocals, great rapping, great everything. There is no flaws in this album. I genuinely can't really point out any major flaws with this album. There are a few things I can nitpick, but I mean, a lot of the things I can nitpick are just things that me personally, I don't enjoy, but I know they were done well. So yeah, I'm giving this album a 10 out of 10, and I don't think anything could really change my mind on that. This has aged super well. I've been listening to this album for many years, and I still come back to it. Let's move to 2016. My intuition is telling me there'll be better days. For Your Eyes Only by J. Cole not only holds, in my opinion, the best J. Cole song, which is For Your Eyes Only, but I think is one of the better J. Cole albums. I'd put it at the number 2 spot for best J. Cole albums. And yeah, I know I did give Born Sinner a 10 out of 10. So I know y'all are thinking that, oh, this guy is probably J. Cole Glazer. He's biased. I really think this album, I really started listening to J. Cole in 2016 probably, and I was first introduced to this album specifically. I heard For Your Eyes Only, and I was just like, how can a song be this good? This song is 9 minutes of just consistent rapping, rhyming, and just such a vibe of a song, and the story behind it is absolutely incredible. This whole album paints such a great picture, and I do believe the album is dedicated to his daughter. This album paints a big picture of him and other people's perspectives, And it's just such a great storytelling album, and it's also really enjoyable to listen to when it comes to production. There's a lot of R&B and jazz type of songs, and I just think it's great. If I were to rate this, I would give it a 9 out of 10. There are a couple songs I would see as skips, maybe, but every song on there is enjoyable to listen to. One of the songs on there are called Folding Clothes, and it was getting pretty trashed on. It's about folding clothes, but it was produced by Steve Lacy, and it's just an absolute banger of a song, to be honest. It's about folding clothes, but the vocals are really good, the rapping's really good, and there's a guitar in the back. It's just such a vibe to listen to. And I've also seen many people cry to this album. Not me though, because I'm a grown man. I would never cry to an album. Uh, but yeah, I've seen other people cry to this album. It's also pretty sad for some of y'all emotional people. I can't stress it enough. I really hope y'all are encouraged to listen to it after hearing me talk about it. Let's move on to 2017. Loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Guys, I promise I don't think Humble and DNA are the best songs on this album. I think this album has been overshadowed because of all the people who think whoever listens to this album is a TikTok music person. But truly, this album is just such a masterpiece, and it really dives deep into all of like the more problems that Kendrick Lamar is facing. But this is more of himself and not like a culture problem or a, hometown problem. This is himself, and there's a lot of like, I guess, cardinal sins or just, sins that really like all humans struggle with. And it also talks about some human strong suits, like loyalty. This album has my favorite Kendrick Lamar song, which is called Fear. This song is 9 minutes long. It's also produced by The Alchemist, which is one of my favorite producers ever. This song is just such a chill, it's a really chill beat, but I think the story behind the song is just so good. It talks about fear, which is what every human, I don't care who you are, you fear something. And it's talking about how in a lot of his childhood, he feared his mother and the things he was punished with as a child. This is just such a good song. It's also a really like catchy song. Like, I think the hook here is really good. Obviously I've said this, but the beat is just one of a kind. All around, this is the best Kendrick Lamar song in my opinion. I really highly recommend this. If I were to give this album a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I think this is on par with Good Kid, Mad City, which not a lot of people would agree with. But this album is shorter, and I think it has less skips than Good Kid, Mad City. Every song on here is important because this is more of a human, this album relates to every human because every human struggles with a lot of these things that he discusses, if not all of them. It's just such an important album, and you have to give it a listen. Let's move on to 2018. This is my favorite Travis Scott album. I think it is the most consistent Travis Scott album. There's not very many skips on here. Even the songs with like the lowest amount of plays on here. By the way, this album is ginormous. Like, I don't know, I didn't like calculate how many plays it has and all, but it is a lot. Obviously Sicko Mode was like the biggest song for the entirety of 2018. Rightfully so. That's a great song. It's super hype. But I think this is the most consistent Travis Scott album, like I was saying. And even the most like underplayed songs on there are still like super good. The production is amazing. There's a lot of features in here that are just spot on, like great casting when it comes to features, like rapping obviously. This is it's a different turn from Birds in the Trap. I feel like it's more of like it's less, I feel like Birds in the Trap was more low key. This is definitely a very out there album, and It's very energetic in a lot of the songs. There's a lot of beat switches. There's a lot of, you know, first half of the song is pretty chill, but the next half of the song is super upbeat and loud, and it's really good. Um, I don't have too much more to say about it. I just think this album's amazing, and it rightfully so deserves the best rap album of this year. Last but not least, let's go to 2019. This is the best Tyler the Creator album. Everybody knows it. This is a perfect album. I give this a 10 out of 10. This is so good. Like, just from every angle, it is just so good. Tyler's rapping. Usually don't like it as much. And here it fits super well. It brings sort of just an upbeat, like, switch to some of his lower beat songs. I think it is amazing. I don't really think this is a rap album, but God, this album is so good. And the replay value, it never misses. Uh, just every song is good. I'd say there's one song I just wouldn't really listen to, but it's not a bad song. Um, I just love every song on here. I think Gone Gone Thank You is probably the best Tyler song. The part everybody knows is like the end beat switch part. I think that's the worst part of the song. The first half of the song, people underappreciate. It is just so good. The little snippet I played for that preview of Igor, that is such a beautiful part of the song. Um, I love this so much. It's really a surprise to see, other than Flower Boy, um, it's really a surprise to see Tyler come out with something like this after hearing Goblin or Cherry Bomb or Wolf. Uh, it's just such a turn for the best, I think, in Tyler. It is just so good, and I can't stress it enough. You need to go listen to it. So those are my best albums for each year of the 2010s. What a great decade. Very appreciated in my head. I don't see enough people talking about how good the 2010s were. People would just be reminiscing on the 2000s and 90s, but the now is as good as it's ever been. Appreciate y'all watching the video. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to be posting more content. Just stay in touch. I'll see y'all later.